Triple header, man. Duke coach Pollard, and now you. So we got the triple header. Just as I was saying, caught me a little off guard. Welcome to our third edition today of the Meeting of the Minds. Been working real hard, and I got a special guest to end it off today, Mr. Nick Buonocore of the Reformed Sports Parent. Nick, how you doing today?
I'm awesome, Chase. Thank you for having me on. This is awesome. Great way to end the Friday workday.
Heck yeah, going to the beach real soon, but try to put in that grind this week since I can't really do anything with my classes or coaching. So we got to get better some way, right?
Absolutely.
And talking to guys like you is something that has been really a blessing to me in the last, I don't know, I've really done it hard the last 2 weeks, but I've been doing it over the summer since we've been knocked out for COVID. So I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of great athletes, a lot of great coaches, and I've found you on social media, the Reformed Sports Parent. Before I go into my experience with you, tell us a little bit about what you do, why you do it, and how did it all start?
I'll tell you how it started. I started because I'm part of my language. It started because I just got pissed off. I started getting pissed off at, I have 6 kids, and my oldest is going to be a sophomore in high school. And, so I have a sophomore, it'll be a freshman, 8th grader, and then a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and going to be a 2-year-old. So we got a full household. But, my oldest, I've been coaching them, for years, and all their, sports of baseball, all that stuff, football and basketball. They do wrestling, but I don't coach a thing of that. I don't know anything about it. And quite frankly, Chase, it started probably about 5-6 years ago. I just started hearing things. You start hearing things, and, parents and people talking about things like college scholarships at 9 years old, or more importantly, what started getting me was I would hear parents that really didn't know anything, and they weren't trying to act like they knew anything, and they were saying things to me like, well, Nick, if I don't sign my kid up in the fall for baseball, I'd love him to play football, and he wants to, but I don't want him to lose his spot in his travel team. And I'd say, what the hell are you talking about? What spot? What do you mean spot? What does that mean? And there's all this fear. And I'm like, where is this coming from? And pull back the layers of the onion. And, people are telling kids and parents that the only way to play ball in college is you got to specialize. You got to do it early. You got to do it year round. And we're going to charge you out the wazoo while we're doing it, but we're not going to tell you that. And I think they strike a lot of fear. So I kept hearing this from people, and I got mad and said, I'm just going to start talking because it's not right. It's just 100% inaccurate. I play with guys who went to the big leagues who, never were multi-sport athletes. So that's where it started from. And now here we are 120 hours of content later, just cranking away. And there's a lot of passion on the subject. People want to get the right information out there.
So 120 hours of content you've developed, and you're all over the place, social media wise, Facebook, Instagram. Anything else you got that I don't know about? Twitter? Just
I'm on Twitter as well, and I just kind of learning these things as I go. And I've been very, very fortunate to grow a pretty decent Facebook page and get some people along the way that are passionate, that want to see change. So that's where it started from. Just started from being a parent, being a former athlete, and wanting to put the right information out there because I felt like there was a lot of information that was just not accurate.
So you just felt like parents were being misled. Their kid wasn't good enough to play. People weren't telling them that. They're just taking their money. Is that what I'm hearing?
I mean, taking their money. That's a good point. As far as parents aren't being told. Yeah, there's definitely an element, and I have a lot of coaches that have gone on the record with me and said the kids aren't getting they're not getting told what their true skill level is. And the reason why is, let's face it, you got to be a college athlete, right? We can't just play sports to have fun when we're 8, 9, and 10. It's got to be working towards the college level. But forget about, it's got to be a D1 scholarship, right? It's got to be D1 or bust. And what people don't know is there's only 11.7 D1 scholarships available at a fully funded baseball program. So, one of the funniest stories that Michael Johnson, who's on our advisory board, he played at Clemson. He was at Clemson, was a captain, 2-year captain at Clemson, went to the College World Series with him. I think it was in 01, 02, or 02, 03. But he's in the top 10 of basically every hitting category. Played with Jeff Baker, Khalil Green. He batted 4th in that lineup. He was a stud. I played with him. I played with him for the Wilmington when we played together at for the Wilmington Sharks. So I got to become good friends with Michael. And so when I started getting involved with this, I asked him. I said, Mike, you were an All-American, second-team All-American. You went to 2 College World Series in Omaha. You were a scholarship guy, you got a full ride. And he goes, what? He goes, yeah, Nick, I got a scholarship. All right. My scholarship was my books. 90% of the guys on our team, that's what they got. Their books paid for. There's just no money, but there's this idea that there's all this money in baseball, and it's crazy.
Yeah, there's money, but it's just not where it needs to be, right?
There's definitely not a lot of scholarship baseball money. That's for sure. Athletic scholarship.
Right, right.
So
Talking to Coach Pollard today, we talked so much about mindset. He was so sharp about the mental aspect. Talk to me about this Reform Sports parent. I mean, it's a mindset too. Some parents really need a mindset shift, right?
I mean, I know I can only speak from my own experience, and I certainly did. The name Reform doesn't come from nowhere, and it's easy to get sucked into this culture where, even someone with me who played 4 years of college baseball, I played a year overseas professionally, and I even got sucked into, kind of living through your kid. I'm talking to my kid on way home from games as if I am his coach as opposed to his dad, and it's easy to get sucked into that when your ego's involved. So I needed to wake up to the fact that it wasn't about me. It wasn't about me, that kids have their own dreams, and what I think it should be for them doesn't necessarily what theirs are. So as far as mindset goes, yeah, it's getting that ego out of the way. Getting that ego out of the way and remembering it's not about me as a parent, it's about them as a kid.
Yeah, the ego. Heard Mike Tyson talk about that on Joe Rogan not too long ago. I mean, once that ego wakes up, it's hard to put him down. But there are strategies that can calm him down a little bit. So ego and you being a D1 player, would you say baseball mindset is something that's important to be able to shift over to the mental game of sport?
Oh my God, yeah. And I didn't play at the Division I level. I played at North Carolina Wesleyan College, and it's another reason why I started this. We were D3. No, you're good. We played we were D3. Now we won the Division III national title, so we would play Mount Olive and other
Charlie Long, right?
Yeah. Well, I was fortunate to be there. My last year, Coach Fox was my freshman year. Then he took the Carolina job, but we went to 2 College World Series when I was there. And anyway, the reason why I bring that up is because repeat the question one more time as far as what you led into.
Mindset in sport. How much emphasis is it? I mean,
it's huge. It's huge. And the reason why is because, just think about, I know for us, when I played at Wesleyan, it was like we had a tradition and we knew, and it was something that Coach Fox and Coach Guzzo, all these coaches for years built, into the mindset of us, is like, we knew when we showed up to the fields, like we were going to win. Like we knew we were going to win. It wasn't if we were going to win, it was how bad we were going to win. We knew we were going to the World Series, and we practiced like that. I mean, Coach Fox, Coach Long, we talked about those things. Like we visualize. Visualization is a huge thing. I don't know if it gets talked about enough, but, you visualize. You talk about ring ceremonies. I think Jim Valvano, if you watch, Jimmy V, the ESPN 30 for 30, he had those guys practice cutting down the nets, right? It doesn't get any more visual. He said that by the time they were doing it, when they won the national title, they had rehearsed this already. And that's all about mindset. It's I don't want to say faking it till you make it, because you got to work really hard. But at the same time, you have to be able to work through adversity. Something I cover a lot is getting out of your. Great coaches lead you when you don't believe you can be led. Great coaches, I believe, push you to places where you don't think you can go in a positive way. And I think a lot of that is driven not by what our physical capabilities are, but where our mind tells us we can and cannot go. And I know from you guys, from a lot of the work you've done after talking to Gene and Jake and such, and Mike Moore, that's a big thing of what you guys do. And there's certainly an element, and talk to any of the highest level athletes and coaches, it's being used every single day.
Right. And Coach Pollard went so far as to say that's all he really worries about now. He doesn't do the day in, day out baseball stuff. I mean, he's fortunate enough to be sitting on top of Duke. I mean, a great university, prestigious, and he can really focus in on getting kids to be the best versions of themselves that they can be. And he gives them, he called it a tool bag. And you talked about visualization. And I think that would be a tool in the mental bag. What other tools do you have?
Well, I think it's important to understand, I'm 40 years old, and I don't know if I would have been as mentally equipped. I was very mature. I was insecure, and I don't think it was much as emphasis on mental health as it is nowadays. We have so much information. Imagine having a Twitter account, being a college kid, 18, 19 years old, and having people like grown adults tell you that you're terrible. Tell you these things, and then try to turn that off. Like, especially a sport like baseball, it's hard enough as it is. You start talking to yourself, and that's what we try to talk about with the Reformed Sports Parent is, parents, the kids don't need you screaming at them from the fence. Like, it's hard enough in any sport. They don't need that pressure. So it's important, I think, for people to understand that mental burnout, mental exhaustion, mental health is real. Like those things are real, and it can seriously weigh you down. But there are, just like exercise with the body, it's like you talk about, there's ways. I've talked to a lot of college coaches who talk about meditation. They use meditation as part of their literally working out.
Yeah, that's good. It's another tool. I mean, it's all intertwined. I mean, successful people are usually having these reset buttons, these things that they can clear their mind with, deep breathing techniques, yoga, whatever. I mean, there's a gamut of things out there that people can do. But I think being informed is something they're really not. I mean, they're comfortable being comfortable. They don't want to be uncomfortable. Would you agree with that?
Oh my gosh, talk about the saying. Coach Bob Bowman, Michael Phelps' father figure and lifelong coach who's on our advisory board. That's like his thing is, get comfortable. He says Coach Bowman told me in our interview, like the essence of Olympic competition is getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And, I can just think about it from me. I have 6 children. If you would have told me 10, 15 years ago that I have 6 kids, I would have told you out of your mind. Because how many times do people ask you, are you ready to have a kid? Are you ready to have a kid? I was never ready to have a kid. I have 6 of them now. I don't even know what that means.
You got ready quick.
Yeah. But my point of the whole matter is you don't know what you're done. I don't think until your feet are in the fire. I don't think you know what you're capable of. I think biggest problem I know from my own experiences is I've never been one of those people that likes to back down from a challenge. So one of the things that gets me to overcome some of my, if I have fear, fear of failure or fear of whatever, I think it's important to recognize that that's normal. You shouldn't feel less than because you experience fear, or if you feel uncomfortable, it's almost a matter of knowing that that's part of the process. You should recognize that as this, okay, wait, this on the other side of this is going to be growth. I have to work through this, because complacency is the killer of of let's face it, complacency is the killer of athletes. It's a killer of businesses. It's a killer of technology, of relationships. If I get complacent in my marriage, and stop bringing my wife flowers occasionally, or doing little things that I know she likes, well, it's like anything. We just being stagnant's no good. I'm glad to hear at so many colleges and it's becoming something that's on the forefront, because it's a major part of becoming an adult and functioning, I believe, at a high level.
No doubt. And we talk about fear of failure. A good friend of mine, Bobby Schreiner, he's a Hall of Fame wrestling coach. He talks about when you have fear in your heart, you're going to freeze. You're not going to move. And in wrestling, you got to freaking move or you're not going to win. And then if you have faith, you're going to move. You're going to actually get up from that spot where you're feeling, sorry for yourself or whatnot. And then you're going to actually get some action into your thoughts and stop thinking so much. I think that's important, being in the present moment and be able to get out of that feeling of stuck, right?
Well, you just used a great word, being present, and I know before, years ago, when as far as, I thought just sitting in a room with my kids meant I was present. I thought just being there was present. There's a lot more to being present than just being physically present. There's being emotionally present. There's being, spiritual, like you said, spiritually present and engaging. And I think as a parent, for me, I need those timeouts. I need to get away from the kids and from everyone's, like we all do. But at the same time, when we have that time, I don't think it's about quantity. It's more about quality. And, well, of course, the more you can do it, the better. But being able to have those engaging moments. And real quick, I'll tell you a quick story. And it changed my life. I was very, very insecure as a freshman at college at Wesleyan. They had just come back from the World Series. And Coach Fox, told me, you have an opportunity to play here as a freshman, yada, yada, yada. And I just didn't believe it. I was 17 years old. I turned 18 when I got one in the fall. I was a young kid. And I felt young. I felt small. And I just was emotionally not confident at the time. And I remember one time, it was during the fall. This was in 98 or 97. I'm sitting down. He kind of waited for me to go out of the locker room. And before I can go out, he sat me down, put his arm around me and just looked at me. And he just said, almost like a dad talking to his son, did you know how good you are? When are you going to wake up and realize that, man, you just gotta relax. You have all the skills that nothing. I don't even remember what he said. It was that moment of him just talking to me. I was so in fear of him. I was so scared of him. And he didn't do anything to make me feel that way. It was just this intimidation. But from that point on, I've learned, and then you fast forward through my professional life, that relationship, that coach, handling each kid differently. Not everyone is the same. Not the same formula works for each kid. And I think the great coaches go into knowing the makeup and the character and of each person from a mental standpoint to get the most out of them. I think that it all ties together. Coach Fox is a master at that, and that's why he's clearly one of the best coaches in the history of college baseball.
Man, 3 for 3 today. All 3 episodes talking about relationships. It must be pretty important, right?
Oh my God, it's the reason I started the Reformed Sports Parent is because I had great relationships from sports. I mean, the bond, the brother, I can talk to. I was texting with one of my buddies, Taylor Williams, who we won the World Series together, and then after his sophomore year, I was a junior. He transferred to ECU and played 2 years of baseball at ECU, and I was just asking him, but I hadn't talked to him in a long time. I cannot talk to these guys for 20 years. And it's like we're back in the locker room. You know how it is. I mean, it's like you're back in the locker room. That's the power of that camaraderie, that relationship. That, if it's really amazing, is what it is.
Yeah, it is, and it wants me to go back to a question I wasn't going to ask when you kind of hit that up. When Coach Fox put his arm around you, can you physically or can you mentally take yourself back in time to that moment?
100%. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. I was slouched over. My body language. I mean, I just remember he was very intimidating. I came from the north. I'm from the north. You can't tell by my accent. I'm originally from Connecticut. Never, right? Yeah.
I'm Johnson County, man.
Yeah. So but he recruited up there, and a lot of us went down there, and I grew up saying yeah, no, and cursing and all that stuff. Well, when you got to Wesleyan, it was yes, sir, no, sir. You don't curse. You don't. And he knew that, and it was almost like. I said, yeah. And he'd go, yes, sir. And yes, sir. So it was done in a way where he had this presence about him. So I was very intimidated, right? Very intimidated, but it was because I had such respect for him. But he knew that. And because of that, he went out of his way, and not just with me, with every player, to make them feel comfortable. And I can remember it like it's yesterday, just having my shoulders shrug. I wasn't confident, and I was probably being a baby. I was immature. I was freaking just turned 18 years old and away from home, and here's this guy who speaks Southern dialect that I can't even understand what he's saying, and he's intimidating. But man, I can remember it like it's yesterday, but I'll never forget it. It made me realize that great leaders coach the individual, and not just there's not a cookie cutter solution.
I ask you about going back in time. Like you talked about your shoulder shrug. I mean, can you feel his arm around you still to this day? Like
100%, 100%. It was like it was almost like, honestly, it's why I say it was like my dad. It was like, he didn't like put it on there in a creepy. It was like, dude, get in here. Like we're gonna hug it out real quick. I love you. He wanted to let me out. To me, I felt like he cared about me. He cared about me as a human being, is what it made me feel like.
Yeah. There's powerful, it's power. The human touch, man, is powerful. I mean, it's anchored you to that point. You had a mindset shift, and man, you're a new man. I mean, was it immediate right away? Did you start becoming more confident, or did you have to work on it?
I just started. It made me not. I don't want to say it made me not afraid of him. It made me less afraid of him. I had the same level of respect, but it was almost like the fear went away. I walked on eggshells, and I think that's what he knew, that I was intimidated, and I clearly respected him. But there's a difference between having respect and being literally afraid. I was a little bit afraid, and it took away that fear that I had as a young kid. Right.
Well, good stuff, man. I think that's, people don't want to talk about that. I mean, these feelings that you're anchored to your past, but some of those are going to be, that's an example of a good one. And I want to tell you one that we heard yesterday from a pitcher from South Carolina. His name's Cannon Cropper. On that episode, he talked about he had Tommy John. So for 2 months, he's getting fat. He knows it, but he's not saying anything. And then just one day, a guy's words, "Hey, dude, Crop, you're getting a little fat," and it sparked something in him. So it's kind of the same. I mean, he touched you and said you need to get over this, and that guy's words impacted that kid to lose 30 pounds, get back into the starting lineup, and continue to play baseball and be even better than he was before. So I think that's important, man. People having those interactions and going back to those relationships. It's huge.
I'll tell you one other quick story that my buddies always make fun of me about. If you want, it's so Coach, telling me basically what it came down to is we had a couple catchers that came in. It was myself and another guy from a good player from a junior college, Brian Woolston, great player. Anyway, we had an All-American on our team who could play basically anywhere. Jeremy Stewart, very good friend of mine. But we wanted him at third. Coach wanted him at third if some other catcher can step up. Make a long story short, we're down in Florida on our trip. So they kept working me in to give me reps, yada, yada, yada. And Coach Long his father was ill or he passed away, and he wasn't with us on the trip. And so I got my first college start. It was like in 6th, 7th game of the year, and I have a great game. You know, Coach Fox not there. I go 5 for 5. I hit the crap out of the ball. And Coach Long, tells Coach Fox, Bones, that was my nickname. He earned it, man. So I go back home, and first conference weekend, it's raining out. I'll never forget it. I get to the field, and I hear like the upperclassmen going, dude, you're starting. And I'm like, oh my, I was so scared. Like, it was almost like, and then the guy that's pitching, Jason Sigley, I love him. He ended up being an All-American, but it was raining out. It was like kind of misting, and it was cold. And he threw, if he was off, his curveball would go like 52 feet. He wore catchers out sometime. And I was nervous. And make a long story short, I ended up, dude, I was behind the plate. Coach Fox is there. I'm starting, and I didn't even want to be out there. I'm literally missing balls as they're being pitched to me. Like, I can't catch them. He gives me 3 innings, comes out, and he's like, you guys are putting on a circus out here, laughs and takes me out. We end up winning the game. But my point is, why I bring that up is that experience made me realize, like, I earned the opportunity, but at that time in my life, I was not ready to be the starter on that team. I just was not. Could I physically do it? Sure. I was not mentally ready for whatever reason. And I think it's important to remember as athletes and coaches, like as coaches especially, and even parents, sometimes kids need to grow up and they need to go through crappy experiences. But like after I went through that, I felt comfortable knowing like, all right, I earned it, but I'm not quite there yet. And I'm ready to like, maybe I'll get another chance later on down the road. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does, yeah.
But I just wasn't mature yet. Kids mature at different times. I think that's important to remember.
Well, here's something I would like to know from that. Did you realize that then, or did it take a few years to say, oh, man, I really wasn't ready? Or did you think you were ready?
I did not think
It's hard to say, huh?
I will tell you this. I was not ready. I knew. It was almost like, I think about it right now, it's almost like I knew I wasn't ready and I didn't want to be ready yet. Like I became comfortable. I became like, in my role that year, I became like as the year went on, the number one pinch hitter off the bench. Like I worked hard. I got spot starts. Again, I was a freshman on a team that just went to the College World Series and we went back to it. And I would be the first guy that would be called off the bench to hit. I got some more starts. So I earned my way. I felt like I earned my keep. I earned my teammates and coaches' respect. And that was enough for me at that time. I knew when I came back my sophomore year that nothing was I wanted to be a starter, and that was it. I feel like nowadays, I don't know. Nowadays, it seems like everyone wants to start when they're a freshman. For me, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. It was a different time.
Yeah. That's a good point. Most times when we're faced with it, we can't really honestly reflect. I mean, we got to say, looking back, I really wasn't ready. I thought I was ready. Or I was an asshole as a kid. I mean, I can't believe I did that to my coach. I said that to my coach. I'd punch a kid in the face if he said that to me. I really wouldn't, but that's what I'd be thinking, right?
Sure. Yeah. It's looking back, that old hindsight being 2020 for a reason.
Yeah, Dr. Rob Gilbert, our clients are encouraged to call the Success Hotline every day. Just give them a good message today. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but
oh yeah, I've heard of it.
He talks about that. That's the good thing about the country. You hear the cars going by. Let someone's hindsight be your foresight. So, you got 20 years on me. Not really, but the mistakes you've made, you tell me about them, and I don't make those mistakes. I think that's important in the maturation and the growth.
Well, I think it's important, and I think it starts at the house, man. I really think, it's easy for you and I to talk about, and it's easy for coaches to say, and coaches have a humongous impact in the lives of the athletes they coach. But, those parents, those guardians, the ones that are there every day and taking an active interest, leading, leading but not taking the keys, right? Like opening doors, not doing it for them. And I think it's reiterating. I interviewed the assistant softball coach from UNCW yesterday, and she gave Kama Tucker. She gave a great piece of advice basically saying like, lead the kids there, but don't force them. Ask them a question. Ask them, hey, do you want me to engage with you? Do you want, do you want to hear my feedback on this? As opposed to just, hey, I'm going to tell you what you did wrong. Hey, would you like to hear what, because if kids say no, they say no. Like parents,
Right.
we don't have to be the role of coach and parent at the same time. I think it's
Yeah.
important to remember that.
Yeah. Coach Hauser, Clayton baseball, high school baseball coach. When I did my internship, I love being under him. You think about your mentors in life, and he talked about that at the parent meeting. Hey, I'm the coach. Let me do the coaching. Let the players play. Let the umpires ump, and you guys just be parents and fans. Don't let nobody cross lines. I thought that was pretty great, and I tried to use that in my coaching. Would you say that's pretty standard for what you're thinking?
I think it is, and I think it's just a matter of reiterating it, man. I think the more people hear it, and it's such a simple message, but I think it's like I said, it starts in the house. It starts parents becoming educated, like, and I think it relieves. I know the reform sport, like I don't have to feel the pressure of being my kid's coach. I shouldn't. It's hard enough being a dang dad, let alone trying
Get
to
them
be
to the
their
practice.
Yeah, and
I got my own practice. What are you talking about? I got to get them to practice too. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it's their own journey. It's their own journey. So it takes a village to raise a child, and I think that's important to remember. At least that's what I believe.
Yeah, and talking with you, I think I've learned that you don't need to live through your kids. You've had your sports career.
Oh, yeah.
And let that hindsight be their foresight, but you can't force it on them, because if you do, they're not going to perform, because they're thinking that voice that's should be theirs is your parents' voice in their head, and they're like, oh my, I hear my dad. That's not good. That's not good either.
No, your kids should be here. Kids should be hearing their dad telling them they love them, and they're proud of them, and it don't matter how you performed. And did you give your best effort? Did you have a great attitude? Were you a great teammate? Did you listen to your coaches? Did you respect the officials? Those are the things that really matter, and those are things that are going to serve you long after your athletic career, as you know.
And just like talking about mindset, it's easy to say, hard to do. Have you found yourself, as your kids are growing up, still kind of get that competitive? Hey, man, what were you thinking in the fourth inning?
And my boys wrestle. They don't even play baseball right now, and maybe that'll start with my younger ones. But
where do they wrestle? What high school? I'm sorry.
They're at Laney High School.
Yeah, solid program.
Yeah, they finished third or fourth. They lost in the semifinals this year. I had
we wrestled them.
Yeah, they had 2 state champs, so they had a great year. So hopefully they'll be good if they have a season this year, God willing.
Right.
But I think that no, when I for me now especially is, I really try hard not to intervene as far as anything that's to do with performance. Now, I haven't had this problem in a while, but if my kids are showing poor effort or an attitude, especially body language, I'm gonna let them know. I'm gonna let if their coaches let them know, great. But if they go in the stands and they're acting a fool, I'm a parent. I got to let my kid know that's unacceptable. And I believe as a parent, I'm doing my child a disservice if I don't let them know that they look like an idiot for throwing something or being a bad sportsman. It's a bad look, and you got to grow up. So if a coach is able to recognize that, sure. Then, but if there's times wrestling is sometimes you finish your match and you don't got another match for a while, and you're acting like a knucklehead. Well, sometimes mom and dad got to let you know that that's not the way you're supposed to be.
Right. I love that. You stay away from performance. You tell them you love them. Tell them when they do a good job. But as a parent, you have to let them know when they show lack of effort, lack of hustle, lack of interest. Like you have to say, look, your body language wasn't really good. I mean, but that's developed at home, like you said, and you got to have that rapport with your kids. Some parents don't have that, right?
I mean, it takes effort. It takes a lot of effort, and quite frankly, it's exhausting. But I heard a great tidbit from a client years ago when I had my first, and it was probably 15 years ago. He said, the greatest dividends you'll ever receive will be from your kids, and no amount of money you ever make, yada yada yada, will mean more to you than what you get from the children that you're able to have. And so I feel like you get out of it what you put into it, and I see it now. Here's what I feel comfortable now. I used to say before I had kids, I'm like, man, I'm gonna have a son. He's gonna be the quarterback in Notre Dame, and he's gonna get drafted in the first round. Dude, I just want my kids to be self-sufficient, halfway decent. I want them to be good human beings who care about people, greater than they care about themselves, and they're genuinely out there trying to serve others and having a good time doing it. And that's honestly all that matters. Nothing else does.
That's beautiful. I mean, that's summed up with a bow tie right there. I mean, that's awesome. Well, look, I know you're busy. You're still in the car. I won't take a lot more of your time. But if
Dude,
you
we're
were,
good, man. This is my office, man. I told you I got a bunch of kids running around like
so are,
maniacs in there. This is where I do all my interviews, everything for right now.
so like, you're not driving, right?
No, heck no. I'm sitting in my driveway.
They're probably like, I'm so sick and tired of hearing my dad talking to everybody.
No, I'm in my driveway. I'm in my parked car in my driveway. This has been the office for the COVID-19
I see.
office.
I get that because I'm on a neighbor's back porch. Earlier, I was in another neighbor's garage. I'm usually at nap time on my back porch. It's terrible. I need a home office. I've learned that.
For sure. And I would. My kids are up. My youngest ones are taking a nap, so I don't want to be too loud right now.
Awesome. Yep. And how old's the youngest?
My youngest will be 2 next month.
2 next month. So I got a little 3-year-old boy running around crazy, man.
That's awesome.
But again, you get to spend more time. I kind of cram to do this stuff and then spend some time with him. And it's tough because they're on their devices, and then you got to break that up, and that's sometimes even tougher, right?
Yeah, and that's something. My wife's a teacher. She's been teaching for 11 years, elementary, and that's something that we try, man. We really try to limit that stuff. We do, and we also don't want to make it so that they don't have it. So like right now, we make it so you get to high school, you get a phone. It's tough because whatever. But truth be told, man, for us, it's. I think there's something to be said about being held back a little bit, about not getting everything right, about earning it. Like my wife has always been a big thing about, our kids should be doing chores. They should be doing things around the house. They should be contributing. And if they're not contributing, though, when they get to the right age, which is now the oldest, it's time to start getting a little job here. It's time to start learning some responsibility. My whole thing is I want to make sure my kids are self-sufficient. God forbid something were to happen to me and my wife, I feel comfortable that my 3 oldest can literally take care of themselves because, my wife does a great job of showing them how to be self-sufficient. I think that's our job as parents.
Good stuff. And if you were a parent, if you saw a parent acting crazy at a wrestling match, would you approach him, or would you just kind of be like, hey, this guy right here is exactly what I'm talking about?
I don't know if I'd. That's an interesting question, and I think it's interesting because one time I was at a match and I saw someone acting, crazy and whatever, and I posted something on Twitter, and Ben Askren retweeted it, and you have people, chiming in like, "Go break it up" or "Go do something." And I'm going, okay. When I do now, if there's a physical altercation, number one, that's different. But I'm not. I'm potentially escalating a heightened situation and making it even worse. So what is that? Am I going to go fight somebody? So I don't know if that's in the best interest of. I think cooler heads prevail. And I think ultimately, of course, if there's ever a situation where a child's in danger, that's a whole different ball of wax. But I don't think it makes a lot of sense to make a scene 10 times more of a scene, because you got little kids around. I think each situation is probably, you have to assess it. But it's a good question. It's a good question. It's a tough question, man. I guess it depends on.
Because you've never been there, right?
Yeah.
I guess what if they were, obviously if they're attacking your kid verbally, then now you're gonna step up and jump in there, right?
I mean, attacking my kid verbally. yelling obscenities at him. Of course.
Hopefully he'd be gone.
That's a little. I would have to probably say, dude, what are you serious? I've seen parents. Listen, you have kids and they participate in sports where, you're gonna run into inappropriate stuff and. If anyone's cursing at the kids, come on, someone's got to let them know. You got me thinking. Now I'm walking through 100 different scenarios. We can have a whole conversation about each one of those.
Take you down a rabbit hole we don't want to go, huh?
Yeah. Oh my God.
That's good stuff. Well, so if you were to say mindset, the one thing that somebody needs in their mindset tool bag, what would that one thing be?
I think vulnerability. And I love vulnerability because it gives you the ability. It's a subservient. If I'm vulnerable, I'm going to allow you to coach me. I'm going to allow you to instruct me. I'm going to take I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to tell you how I feel. I'm going to tell you what's bothering me. I'm not going to bottle it up. And I think at times, and I can only speak from my own experience. I was always afraid to tell you what was on my mind when I was a younger kid, because I was afraid of failure, afraid of letting you down, or, this insecure type thing. And it kind of grew out of me, but I grew out of it a little bit. But I think there's something to be said about leaders who have the ability to know. I think great leaders know what they know and know what they don't know. And I don't think they're afraid to admit what they don't know. And I think that's a sign of strength. I think it's a sign of strength to admit that you have issues or something's bothering or you don't know something. So I think being vulnerable from a mindset, if I'm vulnerable and I allow you to coach me, and let's say I'm an All-American, All-State, whatever, and I go, I don't always want to be the biggest fish in the smallest pond. In order to grow as an individual, I got to be willing to get uncomfortable being uncomfortable. I think a lot of that requires you to be vulnerable and allow others to influence you.
Yeah. And others will help you at that point when they see that vulnerability, and it brings people together. That's a great point. And talking of ego, your ego's got to go away to be vulnerable. You got to hear the truth and be able to, process it normally and not let it eat you up inside. I mean, that's huge. I like that. I know you're very visual. Could talk about Coach Fox. Is there any other superpowers you have?
I mean, superpowers. I will tell you though, from as far as wrestling is concerned and why I fell in love with the sport, and I think this is important. And I love wrestling so much. It's because I think it's it was the first sport that I ever introduced my kids to, where I had a difficult time seeing parents or others blame others for lack of something. Baseball, right? I can you hear people say all the time, oh, if the coach, pitched this kid, or if the kid didn't make this error, there's always finger pointing going on. Like, oh, if the umpire didn't do this. And I feel like we sell that to our kids to make them feel better about whatever it is that they're dealing with. Wrestling, I was like, oh my God, like, you got pinned. Well, why'd you get pinned? Well, the kid's better than me. Great. Like, if you want to get better, go get better. It almost felt like it took all the excuses away. And I think there's so much to be said about kids needing to go through adversity. Like, so you talk about superpower, man, vulnerability. Like, let the kids fall down. Let them know what it feels like to screw up. Like, don't shelter them from, because I think, and I've talked to enough Olympians, I've talked to enough professional athletes, coaches, man, where you can almost handicap the kids if they don't know how to deal with struggle, if they don't know how to deal with what it feels to be pushed and what it feels to be competitive and what it feels to have to go earn something, then they're going to struggle as they get older, because that's life. That's life. You got to learn how to work. Now, I'm not saying you throw your 4-year-old in the pool and tell them to go figure out how to swim. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, if my kid's 10 years old and they're not starting, well, instead of going and starting my own team, why don't I tell them, hey, you want to start on this team? Like, you got friends here, like, go to a different position. Like, help and encourage your kids to think outside the box rather than prepare the kid for the path rather than prepare the path for the kid. And I don't know if it's a superpower or not. It's a super quote that I did not make up, but I read somewhere and I think it's great.
Yeah. Hey, we'll coach you on it because I've never heard it. I like it. You might have to say it again because I don't know if I'd get it right, but
don't prepare your child for the path. Don't prepare the path for your child.
Right. Yeah. And that talks about everything you've mentioned today. I mean, everything, the little things, letting them grow, letting them learn, letting them be kids, letting them be adults, letting them be humans. And humans who are, learn from their mistakes are usually the better humans. You got to be able to grow. That's awesome. All right. Well, anything you want to end up with?
Man, I love what you're doing, Chase. I'm grateful for you reaching out. I'm a big fan of the whole MindZ crew. Jake Hunter, Mike Moore, Gene Zanetti, Jeff Zanetti, and of course you, Chase. Love what you guys are doing. Love your message. I don't think it gets talked about enough. The mindset. I talk to any athlete you ask. Scott Pollard, right? Scott Pollard played in the NBA, played against Shaq, played with LeBron. Scott Pollard, Boston Celtic, 2007. He's on our advisory board. I asked Scott, what's the biggest difference between someone who gets to the NBA D League and or a minor leaguer versus a major leaguer? It's not physical. It all has to do between the ears, man. What separates the goods from the greats, the pros from the minor league type guy, 90%, 99.9% of the time, it's what's going on between your ears. So keep preaching what you guys are doing. It's a great system, and I appreciate you allowing me the opportunity to come and speak.
Heck yeah. And I'd love to use that if you don't mind as a testimonial at some point. That was well said, and I appreciate that. From all the guys here at MindZ, it sounds like you know a lot, and I'm so honored to be able to interview today. We appreciate your time, Nick, and keep doing what you're doing with the Reformed Sports Parent. I love it, and I'm just going to keep spreading your message too, because the parents need to hear it.
Well, I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you very much. Let's do this again.
Yes, sir. Take care.
You bet.